Set up a screen for Hightower. Has blocking. Has the touchdown.
And caught by Hightower. And he will roll into the end zone. Touchdown Saints.
Run 40-yard dashes.
Marcus Dash.
40-yard dash.
Marcus Dash.
40.
Marcus Dash.
Marcus Dash.
40-yard dash.
Marcus Dash.
You run the 40. Marcus Dash.
Welcome back to Running the 40. I'm your host, Marcus Dash. In this episode, I sit down with former NFL running back Tim Hightower, who was a fifth-round pick from the University of Richmond in 2008. He went on to have an amazing career playing with the Arizona Cardinals, the Washington football team, and New Orleans Saints. We get down to the nitty-gritty, talking about the Washington name change, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the adversity that many college and high school football players will be facing without football this year. Take a listen. All right, guys, I'm here with Tim Hightower, former Redskin running back, former Cardinal running back, and former New Orleans Saints running back. Also a Richmond Spider and a DMV guy like myself. So, Tim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Trying to get through this whole COVID situation. I'm hoping your family's been safe and healthy throughout this whole thing.
Everybody's been safe, man. Everybody's been safe. Wearing our mask and doing the best we can and keep everyone healthy.
Yeah, that's all we can do. And now we're slowly getting sports back. You know, I see baseball and NBA right now, so we're slowly getting that back. Hopefully we get our NFL season, so that's what we can hope for right now.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get into the questions here, man. So you're from the D.C. area, and you also played for the Redskins.
Right.
I just kind of want to get your thoughts on everything that's been going on as far as the name change. What do you think of the name change and how, I guess, the organization's handling that right now?
Yes, it's weird calling it the Washington football team. First off, I think it's great. I do think it's great. I think this country is changing, man. It's shifting. And while many are apprehensive about change, change is a good thing. And there are a lot of people who have been I love, my experience playing there, the fan base, growing up there in the DMV area. But yet, there's been a lot of people who have been impacted by the cultural sensitivity of this name. And so I think it's a great opportunity to change, to start something new. You got a new coaching staff, a new ownership. And so I'm excited about the directions and the direction that I see this organization headed in.
And so there's some specific, possible team names that people have been floating around on social media. You got the Washington Red Wolves, the Red Tails, the Red Hogs, and the Warriors. I mean, do you have any specific preference on the names, or which one kind of stands out to you as more of I could get behind that kind of name? I could wear a jersey of a Red Wolf or something.
Well, it's interesting that a lot of the names that are coming out still have red, and I don't think people are missing the whole point of getting rid of the Redskins being a description of a group of indigenous type of people. And so personally, I don't think it would be wise to just attach red to anything. I understand the colors of burgundy and gold. I personally would love to see the fans choose. I think this would be I said this when everything happened. I want to see the fans reach out or kind of let it be a global, national, whatever you want to call it, contest. See what kind of submissions that you get, put free tickets, season tickets on the line. And that way you really give a chance for the community, people who have turned away from the organization, to really get behind it and set a precedent and to feel like this is their team, right? And at the end of the day, hey, you're covering your bases and now you're saying, hey, look, you guys, this is what you all wanted, right? And so I think it'd be a great PR move. I think it would be a great kind of community move, and I would love. I don't have a particular preference to the name. I just would love to see them opening up a contest and let the let the fans vote on the best name.
For sure, I agree with that. And there were some kind of people who were making fun of the Redskins for just going with the Washington football team for this year. But me personally, I don't know if you agree, them taking kind of the year to kind of look at everything, look at all the options that they have out there before just throwing a team name out there, and people may not like that. But what do you think of the whole idea of them reviewing it and taking a whole year to kind of discuss?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's look, people are, at the end of the day, you're not going to get it right away. Right. In a lot of people's views, right. If you change the name, some people are upset. If you don't change the name, people are upset. But at the end of the day, they made the best choice. They made the right choice. And now you don't just make all of a sudden a decision, naming an organization. That name was in place for years. And so you want to do it right. You want to be thoughtful. You're thinking about marketing. You're thinking about PR. You're thinking about your fan base. You're thinking about all of these things. And so to turn around and put a name out there just because you feel like there's a time clock and a season approaching, I think it's wise to take your time and do it the right way.
I agree, and their uniforms don't actually look that bad. I like the just the number on the helmet. It's kind of sleek. I like that.
Hey, look, at the end of the day, you win, and no one cares about the name. No one cares about what the jersey looks like. Just as Al Davis once said, just win, baby. That's what matters.
That's true. So, kind of talking about, you kind of referenced how the world is changing, and this year we've seen kind of with George Floyd's protests and everything, the NFL has actually kind of taken a stance for the first time, and go back to Kaepernick days. They didn't really say anything on that. They were actually kind of on the opposite end of this. But now you're seeing them kind of the NFL's response to Black Lives Matter movement. And I got to say, what's your thoughts on the NFL's kind of stance on what they've done so far, the last couple of months, kind of backing up the movement?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm encouraged, but there's a bit of frustration, and I understand I've spoken to many, look, on both sides, from every ethnicity to age to those who served in the military. For me, I try to save my comments and my thoughts to make sure, A, I have enough information as possible, and then B, I get enough perspectives as possible. I'm not just thinking from my limited perspective. And here's the thing. The unfortunate thing, the great thing about the media and the bad thing about the media is the narrative of taking away from why Kaepernick kneeled in the first place, right? And at the end of the day, I've been in a situation, I've been very fortunate to play in the National Football League, but yet where I come from, you never forget where you came from. You never forget the communities. You never forget the experiences. Matter of fact, when you walk out of that NFL locker room, a lot of the people who've influenced you over your life come from these communities. And so it's frustrating as a former player to see a lot of the narrative, and even at the NFL level, not to understand, did he go about it? Did he do everything the right way? Do I agree with every single one of his protest strategies? No, I don't. But what I do understand is he was speaking for a community who felt like they were not being heard, right? And he used his position, he used his platform to say, hey, look, here's some things going on, and I'm going to raise awareness and take a stand for this, right? So I'm encouraged to see at least the NFL now that they're trying to support. At the end of the day, what a lot of players have come from these communities who are experienced. I've personally experienced. I have a lot of respect for the military, for the police, but I personally experienced issues being pulled over, being questioned and frisked for doing absolutely nothing. So it brought back a lot of emotional and past issues from my own self. So I think he was a pioneer. Again, did he do everything right? Absolutely not. But I think it's good that at least the conversation is being had. And as athletes, we're being a voice for those in our communities that they're looking up to us, not just for what we do on the field, but can you have a voice for us off the field and bring light to some of these issues? And so I'm encouraged by it. And I hope that we can find a way as America, find a way to see the intent of where people are coming from, instead of being offended that, well, it's for the flag, or it's not all lives matters. Can we find out why people are upset, and at least listen? How can we listen to the experiences of others? And so I'm encouraged. At the end of the day, I always try to see the glass half full. So I'm encouraged by the progress.
Yeah, and it takes one person like Kaepernick. You say that he didn't do everything right. It's like we go back to the Redskins.
Right.
they're at the end of the day, they're not going to, whatever they choose, it's not going to be someone's going to find a flaw in something, right? But all it takes is one thing to kind of have that conversation. And now people are talking about it. Everyone's having the conversation now, whether they agree or they don't agree, everyone's conversing about it. So this is
absolutely.
But I did read that the NFL, that there's different sources said, I was reading some articles. They're saying the NFL was kind of hands off in this whole Black Lives Matter movement this time around, until Patrick Mahomes came on and said something about it. And once the face of the league got involved, the quarterback that's on all the boxes, Madden, everything. Once he got involved, that's the league was like, okay, we need to get behind it 100%. Yeah. Does that show like how big of an impact does the face of the league and like kind of a quarterback now that the face of the league is an African American quarterback? It was Brady and Peyton Manning, but now it's Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson. That's who the face of the NFL is now. How big of a deal is that to kind of further movements like this, that the face of the league now is in minorities? It's African Americans. How big of a deal is that?
It's huge. It's huge. And here's the thing. What people got to understand is the NFL is a $10 billion business, first and last. When I got released from the Washington Redskins, when I sat there in front of Mike Shanahan, it wasn't about my character. It wasn't about my abilities. It was about this was the best business decision for right now. The decision that they made, I would love to say that, they're behind a cause or whatever it is. It was a business decision. In the same way that not getting behind it was a business decision. And so for me, the frustration for a long time was not that all the faces of the NFL were white, but that they chose not to take a stance, that they chose not to say anything. When issues arise, whether you gave a dime to a Black Lives Matter or in the past decade, 15 to 20 years, any movement for that matter, regardless. But the fact that you haven't said anything, when you see as a brother in the locker room, we battle on the field together. This is how we make our livelihood together. But yet when I experience pain or when I experience trauma, when I experience something and you stay silent, it's hard for me then to now, where do we really stand? And so now it is very encouraging to see that people with influence are starting to be the ones who are truly being a voice for a lot of communities who have not been heard for a long time. And so I do think it was a business move. I'm just going to be honest. But regardless, I'm about change. I don't care how it happens. I don't care who's responsible for it. I want to see progress and I want to see change. We owe it to everybody to keep the conversation moving forward, to be better, to have a better future for our generations, our kids coming up than we had. Just like the generations before us, they fought, they marched, they did whatever they had to do so women could vote, so minorities could vote, so minorities could go to public universities, and so we could end segregation. We want to keep moving the conversation and the standard forward. So I'm encouraged to see Patrick Mahomes and all the faces of the NFL take a stand and keep the conversation moving forward.
Yeah, and you talk about progression. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the Last Dance, the documentary series. Talk about the Bulls' last championship.
Yeah.
The one bit in there about how Michael Jordan, he had a time to speak up about a person who was running for Congress in North Carolina. He had a chance to say something about it. He didn't, or was it Illinois? He didn't say anything about it because he said Republicans buy shoes too. It was a business decision for him, right? But now we're seeing the progression. We're now Patrick Mahomes, who is the face of the league, who is the Michael Jordan of the NFL. Now he's choosing to use his platform for good, and so I think it's progression. We're moving along.
It is progression.
Right trend. So,
and it's a different. It's a different time that Michael Jordan was in as well. It was a different time. And here's the thing. You see a lot of players, and a lot is being made now. And again, it's still being used to divide. In my perspective, Kaepernick's whole intention was, and this is from being in the locker room at the 49ers, my brief time there, talking to Eric Reed, talking to a lot of those guys, white and black, who had conversations. He had a chance to talk with Kaepernick. Originally, what was this guy's intent, right? It was to bring awareness. It was not to divide. It was to bring awareness. And so right now, at the end of the day, that's what we have an opportunity to do, is to bring awareness. And I see a lot of people still trying to find every way to divide. Players standing, players sitting, baseball, different sports. It's not about whether or not you're standing or sitting. It's about continuing those conversations and bringing awareness to the injustices in this country. Not saying this country is terrible. Yes, we have progressed. Yes, a lot of people have fought so that we can do that. But yet we still can always do better. And so we have to keep the conversation going. So Michael Jordan's time was different. He's doing it now. He's doing a lot now to do his part. I'm not upset with that, but I am encouraged to see guys now take a different stance.
For sure. For sure. And it all comes with that progression. And it was a different time back then, but because we've advanced as a civilization, we progressed and now we're at a point in time where athletes like Patrick Mahomes can stand up and have a platform.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get behind
Absolutely.
it. So
Absolutely.
let's go away from the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's talk about COVID again. So since your playing days, you've kind of gone around and become a public speaker and talking about different things you've dealt with, adversity in your career, be it injuries or the stigma of coming from being a small school guy. There's different kind of adversity that many juniors and seniors in high school are facing right now. Seeing all seasons get canceled because of COVID. What kind of advice do you have to those kids who are seeing their junior and senior seasons go up because of COVID right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's so many levels that are being impacted. So many people at so many different levels who are being impacted by the times that we're in. I actually just talked with my former alma mater, the football team on Sunday. I know for a fact, and I said this on my social media, I would not have made it to the NFL if I did not have my senior year. I was not good enough my junior year. That's just the fact. There was not one school calling or one pro scout, not one interest, not one bit of interest my junior year at the University of Richmond. It took every bit of 4 years for me to develop. And so I think about that trajectory, and if I did not have my senior year, how much different my life would have been, right? So my heart goes out to whether it's athletics or non-athletics, the internships, the opportunities, just having that chance to finish your senior season, high school or college. And so first of all, you try to just understand what they're going through. You try to just talk to them and try to figure out, what are you feeling right now? But then at a certain point, I try to draw on my own experiences, whether it's injuries, whether it's times of uncertainty. And one thing I know is that football kept me out of a lot of trouble. I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't school. I would have loved to think that I did okay at school, but football kept me focused. It kept me out of trouble. You have to make certain decisions when everyone else is going out and partying. Am I going to work out? Am I going to take care of my body? So it keeps you focused because you have something that you're looking and working towards. And my concern was, when you remove that, what happens to these seniors, these juniors at the high school and collegiate level? Where does their attention start to go? Right? That's just human nature. And so the advice was, find something. Stay together, right? Like, stay together. That's what a locker room, that the uniqueness of a locker room is. You got a team, you got a brotherhood. So don't isolate yourself. Reach out, stay connected on Zoom, on social media, whatever you got to do. Stay connected, one. And two, find something, stay in shape, stay ready, but find something to keep you working towards some type of goal. Something. I don't care if you got to pick up a business thing on the side, whatever you got to do, but find something to keep you working towards, because at a certain point, your mind starts to wonder, and you start to feel like, well, what's the point here? I can't control this anyway. So who cares if I start to be reckless with some of my decisions? And so, it's a tough time, and you just try to support them as much as you can.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. Keep your mind preoccupied, working towards a goal. And I think that's something we can all do that. So I think that's great. That's great advice.
100%.
So let's go to we're talking about adversity. This is something that in recent days I put two and two together here, and so Alex Smith, in a couple of years ago, we saw the E60 on his horrible injury and how he's kind of recovered from having infections and having multiple surgeries on his leg.
Yeah.
2011, when you were with the Redskins, you tore your ACL which ultimately sidelined you for a couple of years because you also had infections from post-surgery.
Yeah.
And I just think that the two stories are very eerily similar. Do you kind of see any parallels to your stories? And kind of what are your thoughts on his comeback and just in general about coming back? Because you hear people saying, "Oh, why is he coming back? He's got millions of dollars. He doesn't need to come back." It's more than that. You guys are competitors. You're athletes.
Yeah.
It's not just, "Oh, I have $1 million. I'm good." It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. It's my godmother told me this. She's been a very big influence on me, and she told me sometimes your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness. And I don't think people understand what got you there. That mindset that got you there, that's your default, right? Like, you don't just turn that on and off. If you're competitive, for me growing up, it was, this is what I want, and either you're with me or you're against me. It was that black or white. Either you were supporting me get to where I got to go, or you're a threat and I got to remove you out of my life. And so sometimes that became a challenge because you're trying to take advice and figure out who's for you and who is against you. But my point is, you don't just turn that off. Here's a guy, he has fought his whole career. He's fought to prove himself. Yes, he was a first-round draft pick, but he's fought to prove himself. He was a game manager. He's all these things. No one wants to go out that way. So again, once you hit adversity, the first thing that's going to turn to his mind is, I can prove these people wrong. And maybe not even just for them, for himself, right? Not going out like that, right? And so I know that's the feeling that I felt. We were at two different points of our careers. So yes, the injuries with the complications and stuff like that may be similar. We were at two different points in our career, but yet the mindset of, I'm going to do everything that I can to say that I did all that I could do. If it's not good enough, then so be it. But I'm going to fight with everything that I have. That's just a mindset that you don't turn off. I pray everything goes well with them, but I remember that journey being a long, a challenging journey physically, lots of surgeries, lots of tears, lots of rehab. So, man, I commend him for going down that road. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. But you just don't turn that mindset off. And it's harder for him to not come back than it would be for him to come back, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And this was something, I don't know if it was the same medical staff. Because the fact that I hear, like, post-surgery infections, right? And it kept you out of the game for a little bit, and it kept him out of the game. Obviously, different injuries, right? So that
Sure.
matters. But that's kind of crazy. Was it the same medical staff, or did you know if it was the same medical staff that? I
think it was the same medical staff. Here's the thing. I had my frustrations with the medical staff there. I'm not sugarcoating anything, I had my frustrations. But here's the thing, though. This stuff happens all over the place. And the frustrating part is, and what I found out, I thought that I was a unicorn in the sense that this was, they tell you one out of, they tell you the odds of something happening, right? Hmm. But I didn't realize how commonplace it was to have these issues post-surgery for athletes and with certain surgeries. I didn't understand that because I just thought that I was one out of. So it would have been great for me to kind of place that in perspective and be able to talk to individuals who have gone through that. Well, what did you do? Sometimes the best, I felt like I went to the best doctors, the people who are the world-renowned surgeons and PTs and all that stuff like that. But in the same way that I fumble on the football field or I get it wrong, sometimes they get it wrong too. Right. But at least admitting, hey, we got it wrong. Let's put our heads together and figure out how we can get it right. So, yes, it was the same medical staff, but I don't put that on them as a fault towards them. I think that's a mistake that happens more common than it's talked about.
Right. Yeah, because you hear infections like, what? I don't hear it that often, but I mean, right. I guess it is one of those things that does happen. And I like that equating a fumble, and that happens. You're running back, it's your job, but when you fumble,
right.
It happens, right? So,
it happens, yeah.
Interesting. So kind of talking about you playing. So as I told you earlier, I had you on my fantasy team your rookie season.
I hope I scored you some points, man.
Oh, your rookie season, you're a steal.
Okay, cool.
You ended up taking more carries than Edge that year, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, cool. You can Venmo me. I'll just take 5%, man, of any proceeds, man. I got kids, man. I got kids.
I got you.
Yeah.
We'll talk after the show.
No doubt.
But and in that year, you're kind of like a physical specimen. You're a big running back, and kind of, you're bigger than the other running backs that we kind of had in the league at that point. At that point, a running back your size, that's a fullback. That's more of a fullback type, right? But I always kind of marveled how stacked and ripped you were as a running back. And then during these months and COVID months where these guys aren't going to the gym, that they were doing workouts at home, everyone's doing kind of videos of them. It kind of looked like, it was funny because all these guys weren't going to the gyms and stuff, but they were doing these home workouts, which seemed like, out of this world. But really, that's kind of what old school running backs would do back in the day. Do you remember any kind of at-home workouts that you did during your playing days? Like, LaDainian Tomlinson has a hill that he had right by his house that he would always run. And that was kind of his workout that he'd always do, running up this steep hill. Were there any kind of workouts that you did back in the day that was kind of your at-home workout?
Well, hills, man. Not necessarily in the house, but hills. Being able to run hills is something that my father didn't let me. He was a boxer, and he didn't let me lift weights until probably my senior year of high school.
Really?
And I was frustrated. Yeah, I was frustrated just because all the other kids were, this was back in the tank top days. They were wearing the T-shirts and the cutoff shirts, and they felt like they were all ripped up leaving the weight room. And I wasn't in the weight room. So, but man, just a lot of calisthenics, a lot of plyometrics. You can do plyometrics in your backyard, in your front yard, jumping up and down steps, plyometrics up and down steps, single leg, running up a full set of stairs, running up hills. That's what I remember a lot of. Obviously, pull-ups, push-ups, dips, crunches till you can't do them anymore. Those types of things to where you're doing it till fatigue. You're doing squats until you can't do squats anymore, even if it's body weight. And so that's really that muscular endurance. You can't beat sometimes the strength endurance, but I do remember some of that muscular endurance, the plyometrics and the muscular endurance from doing body weight type stuff. It just taxes your body in a completely different way. And so hopefully these guys are doing that, because that is the challenge when you don't have that resistance, that you really have to challenge your body and put that stress on your body, because I'm looking out for if you're seeing increased soft tissue injuries, ligament issues, because you haven't put that increased demand on your muscles. So you can do planks in your home, you can do all these cute workouts, but you have to stress your muscles, your joints, your ligaments to prepare for that torque, that rigorous training, repetitive training and stress. And so hopefully for me, it was hills, it was steps, it was plyometrics, it was all that stuff. Hopefully those guys are doing a lot of that stuff to keep their bodies, to make sure their bodies are ready. For
sure. And I kind of want to talk about the fatigue aspect of things. So a lot of NFL teams this year are kind of floating around the idea, and I don't think anyone has come out and said this, they're going to do that yet, but they're thinking about doing same-day flights. So game day on Sunday at 1 o'clock.
It's a horrible idea. It's horrible. I mean, if you look, first of all, sleep is, I think already, I would challenge that the NFL needs to stop flying out the same day after the games. If you look at the Golden State Warriors, and they had a big article about one thing that they changed was making sure the players got maximum sleep. They did it a few years ago during their dynasty run, and they stayed at the city the night after the game to make sure they got their sleep, right? A lot of times after these games, teams are leaving at 10 o'clock, 11, 12 o'clock. They're flying all through the night, then they're waking up starting the day. So you're not recovering from the game properly. And then you're not starting the week off for the next week with proper recovery. You already have now shortened condensed weeks of recovery with Thursday night football games, with Monday night football games. And now you want to fly out the same day, which it's already flying. The elevation increases inflammation, increases dehydration. It's not a good recipe. In my opinion, it's not a good recipe for longevity with players, for the health and safety of players. I understand their thinking, but just from being a player, knowing what it takes for your body to recover, it's not. Guys got to make sure that they're on top of their hydration even more, that they're on top of their soft tissue. They're on top of all of these things. I don't think it's a good idea, personally. No.
Yeah, so the NFL. So I was talking to Eric Warfield about this next topic, which is eliminating preseason. He was a seventh round pick, and he talked about how he wouldn't have. He said there's two things. He said he probably wouldn't have made the Chiefs roster if they didn't have preseason back then. So that's one problem with it. He said. Secondly, he says guys the veteran types who don't want preseason anymore. They're He says he sees them right now saying they don't want that, but once the first 4 games happen, if some of them get hurt, they're going to blame it on not having preseason. So he sees that. Double question for you. One, what do you think you would have made the Cardinals if there wasn't a preseason back then? And also, what do you think about the health aspect of not having preseason and then just going those first 4 games? That's it. That's regular season, and you're getting that practice that that kind of fatigue that you weren't getting from those plank workouts you were talking about.
Yeah, that's tough because here's the thing with football, man. Football is a lot. You can do the combine, you can do the 40, you can do all those things, but what you cannot control is what happens when you turn the light on. When you turn those lights under the lights, different players respond differently. And that's not something that you can see, you can test. There's not something that you can even sometimes see in practice. Some guys are practice All-Americans. That's the running joke in the locker room. You'll see a guy who just flashes in practice. They call him practice All-American. But for whatever reason on Sunday, they're just not able to turn that on, that same intensity on. And so would I have made the team? I'm not sure. You know, I tried to be one who practiced very hard in the way that I played. And so hopefully there would have been enough to show teams, to show the Cardinals that, you know, I could play in a game. But yet you have a lot of guys who made it because of the games. Right at the end of the day, when they made that play, that they got that 4th and 1, or they made that stop, you saw guys turn on who maybe they didn't practice well. They weren't great practice players, but for whatever reason, they turned it on when it came competition time. So I don't think it's gonna. Here's the thing that people don't understand though. Most of that roster is set when you come to preseason. That roster, the 90 guys or whatever it is, that's for repetitions, to get guys reps, all that kind of stuff. 80% of that team, 85% of that team is set. That roster is set. And so it will impact those 7th round, those free agents, guys kind of borderline like myself, but it's not going to impact the majority of the guys who already have a contract, who are 1st through 4th round draft picks, 1st through maybe even 5th round draft picks. So it will impact some of those sleepers, some of those small school guys, but as a whole, it will not impact, personally, I don't think it will impact the majority of the team.
Yeah, that is interesting. You see, you know, it's cuts down a 53-man roster, and I believe this year they're not doing 90 this year. They're doing 80 to start, but they're also upping practice squad, the amount of people they can hold practice squad. But yeah, it is interesting that you say they already have most of that set. So it's like
they have that stuff. They make it seem like it's truly fighting for positions. Again, I started this. It's about money, and when you're paying guys money, they're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Okay, like they're set. Your roster, your salary is set. Your salary cap is set. You owe these guys money. There are few spots that you have open. You know, 5 to 7 spots or something like that you got guys competing or on the roster bubble. Other than that, I still would like to see at least 1 or 2 games. I think that still would be beneficial because at the end of the day, you do need guys. As a veteran, I would advocate. I'm like, man, look, I don't need any of this preseason stuff. But you still do need some time to build some continuity. You got to see what you got on film. Put what you have on film, in practice, make sure it's matching up in the game, get into a rhythm. So there is a benefit to having a preseason. I just would have liked to see it condensed as opposed to just gone away with.
Right, and maybe going forward, because this year they wanted to kind of limit the amount of people being exposed to each other for COVID. Maybe going forward, they will eliminate 2 games, maybe have just 2 games preseason.
Right.
Beneficial to everybody. A really interesting conversation, man. So we're going to go to the final 40 segment, which the show is called Running the 40 with Marcus Dash. So
I like it.
So first question I've been asking everyone this: what was your fastest 40-yard dash?
4.41.
If
If you pull up YouTube, I posted this on my social media. I beat Beanie Wells. We raced before game, pre-game. Arizona Cardinals, pulled it up. It's on YouTube. That was a 4.43. You can time it yourself. Yeah.
You guys
So
raced
4.4.
We
raced before a game. He was talking trash all week. Look, he ran faster than me at the combine. I think I ran a 4.5 in my pro day. But I told him he wasn't faster than me, and we didn't have a chance to compete before the game. Coaches hated it. But you know what? When you compete, when you're a competitor, like I said, you don't turn it on and off. That was the right time. So you can pull it up on YouTube. Me, Beanie Wells, that's my boy. But he lost that day.
Well, there's the fighter and competitor in you. You had your best 40 time racing him.
There you go. Exactly. There you go.
All right. So next question: you own a Cardinals rookie running back record. What is that rookie running back record?
The record that I thought I used to own. I thought David Johnson broke that, but it was single touchdowns in a single season as a rookie.
Yeah, I believe you were the first rookie running back to get that. David Johnson did.
First, okay, yeah.
First one. What team did you have your first start against?
The Rams, St. Louis Rams.
Wow, you know your stuff.
Look, I got hit, man. My mind is so good, though. I'm all good.
So, growing up, what running back did you model your running style after?
Walter Payton. Walter Payton 1. Barry Sanders 2. Though I didn't quite have the moves like Barry Sanders. I tried, man. I practiced as much as I could. My body, I could not get down to those angles, the shin and the hip angles. I don't know how that dude's ligaments are he's still walking around with the moves that he got in and out of. So I would say definitely Walter Payton, never die easy.
This is a fun question here. So during your career, you only had 2 receiving touchdowns. Can you name the 2 passers that threw you the balls in those scores?
Yeah. So okay. So I'm gonna challenge you here. I had 3. One was in the postseason. I had one against Carolina Panthers, my rookie year. Kurt Warner threw it. Carolina Panthers divisional game.
Set up a screen for Hightower. Has blocking. Has the touchdown.
I had one. Was it Rex Grossman? John Beck. Rex Grossman. Had a sprint out pass to the left against the Cowboys Monday Night Football.
3 plays later, now 1st and goal. I think Tim Hightower got loose in the flag.
Somebody blew an assignment on defense.
And the third one was Willie Snead, Saints. Willie Snead. I wasn't supposed to be in that play. Mark Ingram was supposed to be in. And a 50-yard pass up the right side.
On 3rd and 3, Willie Snead, can he throw it? Wide open and caught by Hightower, and he will roll into the end zone. Touchdown, Saints.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't have many of them, so I can remember all 3 of them.
Right. No, so when I was looking at it, I obviously I didn't watch every Saints game. I'm a Chiefs fan, but
Sure.
Seeing that Willie Snead threw it, I was like, oh, Drew Brees. And I looked it up. I was like, whoa, Willie Snead threw it.
Willie Snead threw it. So when everyone saw Odell and Saquon, NFL is what people don't understand. NFL is a copycat league. All these coaches do, they watch the film from the team before, and they literally just replicate the same play. So you come into training camp with this whole playbook. You don't run 75% of those plays that you study from your playbook. You have like 25% of your bread and butter, and then from there, you take what people have been doing the weeks before and you put it into your system. And so whether it's you saw Saquon and Odell do the same play, you've seen it done since a few times. The Saints attempted it again a year or 2 ago. Same play, recycled.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I watch Andy Reid stuff, and Andy Reid, he's always looking at plays. I mean, you saw a play he had in the Super Bowl where the 3 of them did that synchronized spin move. That was a play they did in the 1950 Rose Bowl. I mean, Michigan did.
Yeah.
So, okay, so last question here. What is kind of one piece of advice you would give to NFL running backs this year who are on their last year of their contract?
On the last year of their contracts, man. Make sure you have a insurance policy. That's one. It's the off the field. Make sure your off the field stuff is taken care of so you can focus on the field. one. Two, invest more money into your body than you do into anything else. Edgerrin James told me that when I first got in the NFL. There's no stock, there's no bond, there's no real estate asset that's going to bring you a greater return than me investing. If I invest $50,000 into my body to take care of my body and to make sure that I'm at a high playing at a high level, and you mean to tell me I'm going to see a return of how much next year? One more season in the NFL. Look at that return. A $50,000 or $100,000 investment brings a X million or whatever it is return. That's in 1 year. It's absolutely crazy. And so invest in your body. Take care of you off the field. Make sure you got an insurance policy. And then two, take care of your body. Invest. Get you a team of people. Not just don't rely on your team. Get some people, a massage therapist, chiropractor, specialist, nutritionist, whomever you got to do. But invest in your body so that way you can make sure you have the longevity and make the money and have the impact that you want to have.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I actually hope that I'm going to try to get this weekly, even when the season starts. I'd love to have you on and talk some week-to-week shop about the games on the Sundays and stuff.
Let's do it, man. Thanks for having me, Marcus.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Have a good one, buddy.
All right, man. You too.